Hey to anyone who's watching, this is as discussed in the UniTas unofficial Psych Discord, just a brief overview of OneNote and why I think it's awesome and why I won't shut up about it. So OneNote is a filing system that lets you organise entirely different streams of work, different types of work underneath the one topic. So you can have your unit as the topic, then all your class notes, your lecture notes, your slides, your reading notes, any helpful images and links, any exam prep, any quiz prep, reminders about things, your unit outcomes, assessments, dates, and more, all in the one place. There's more that you can do in OneNote than just that, than just tracking and recording things, but it's a pretty solid start. What makes it so powerful for me is that it means that the entirety of my efforts, my study for uni, for every unit, is in a single space and it's in a single program. No going to different files, locations, documents, no reaching for things. If it's a thing that I need, or if it's a thing, like just a thought that I have, I can put it straight into OneNote and it's then collected with everything else. It just, for me, simplifies the kind of brain load. I don't have to think too hard about where stuff is. I can get straight to it. It's all in the one spot, and I feel that frees my brain up to focus on the actual content that I'm trying to learn. Best of all, once it's in there, once it's in OneNote, it is searchable. Even images and screenshots with writing on them can be located. We'll look at how that works in a bit. So let me walk you through my first semester's page just to get a visual of what it is I've been banging on about. Now, OneNote normally lives in my system tray, and I right click and open OneNote. And here it is. So you'll see up the top on the tabs, I've got Sci 111 and I had Sci 112. And my intent over my time in uni is to have all of these tabs. I'll keep them forever in this OneNote. So here we go, having a look at 112. On the very top page here, I've got my outcomes and assessments. So I've grabbed my course level learning outcomes. I've grabbed my how will I be assessed and intended learning outcomes for the unit, and that's my very topmost page. I then had week one, which was, if you recall, was just reading, so it was just reading reflections and thinking and all of that. Then we go into the weeks, and you'll see that I've got the topic on each of what the week was about, and then underneath that I have each of the pages from the content in Milo, and then it'll have a mix of my writing. You'll see here as well that it's very easy to change colours and size. It's simply right-clicking and you've got all of your colour and painting tools up here. You also have drawing tools where you can just grab them and highlight important sections that you think are relevant. And it's just a really colourful way to learn. Being kind of new to being educated after 20 years, I did one of the initial UStart seminars and it talked about different ways of taking notes. And you'll see here the Cornell notes. So just a mix of, you can see some kind of sequencing of ideas here in some different colours and spaces. And I think it really helps keep your brain nice and active and making sure that knowledge is going in somewhere to stick. So yeah, it sits really nicely on a page. You can see, so that's week 2. All of these look quite neat now, but then when I start dropping them open, you'll see that all the units come out. You see there's a lot of screenshots as well, which can be really useful, particularly 112 because it was very heavy on memorizing of facts. But there are still opportunities to, write some thoughts on the reading or on practical activities. And some weeks I didn't do reading at all. Whoops. And then you can see here just on each of these weekly pages I've done some exam prep against the ILOs. But yeah, so that's my OneNote. It's a mix of everything. It's got that's just a screenshot from one of the contents one week and then stretched wide on the screen so it stands out really strongly. Lots of pictures, lots of visuals. We jump across into 111. It's the same again. I've got outcomes and assessments at the top. I've got my reading thoughts, screen grabs, reminder to myself here, set my quiz around the ILOs. So really helpful. Everything I need is in the one place. And let's take this for example. So the word stumbling here, which I'll highlight with a texter. stumbling appears in a screenshot. Now, I didn't know that you could search screenshots, but when I type stumbling at the top here, you see that it brings up 2 pages. One is brain mapping, where the word stumbled is down here at the bottom underneath the picture of the brain from the fMRI, and then the other one is the screenshot here. It's picking that up as well. So imagine you're in your Sci 112, you're in an open book quiz, let's say. There's a concept you half remember and you have a critical word either from the question or from your recollection. You search it and it will actually search absolutely everything in your OneNote. So really, really handy. Really, really handy. I can't bang on about it enough. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, one of the most powerful elements of it is that, let's say I wanted a screenshot. Press Windows key plus Shift plus S, all as one. So Windows Shift S. I can now click and drag on anywhere in the screen and take a screenshot. So I can choose what area I want to copy, and then I can Control V and paste it right into OneNote. So when I'm watching a video and there's Crystal Meehan and she's talking about a thing and there's a particular slide there that I'm really interested in, then I can simply grab a screenshot of that, and you'll see a lot of that if you look through my OneNote. Obviously now that I'm clicking it's not showing up anywhere, but here we go. So screenshots of the cognitive theories of emotion, and then just my thoughts in between, which pink's my favourite colour, so pink, large type, and there you go. So that's essentially what it looks like. And I like to keep it nice and uniform. Like, it looks really busy when the menus are all extended. However, they are uniform, so all the titles match the same format. I got kind of annoyed with 112 at times because they wouldn't put numbers on their units like 111. You see down here it's got week 5, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, whereas 112 is like, we don't care, here's a title. But anyway, so it's all very neatly and nicely put together, and absolutely massively facilitated my ability to learn, which is really handy. So yeah, now what we're going to do to get to the point on this is that the new units, as we've discussed in Discord tonight, in fact, won't open until the 5th of July. And for anyone who might want to utilise this, I'd like you to be able to get started sooner so that you're ready to go day one as soon as that content comes out. I certainly found spending the first week before week 1 preparing myself and preparing my OneNote and preparing my space was time incredibly well invested. And the discipline of building each week out correctly and really putting the effort in to put all your learning in here pays off in the end. Yeah, just again, a wonderful tool for organising information. So what we're going to do, because we don't have the new units yet, we're going to redo one of the units. So we'll redo Sci 112. Okay, so I go up to my OneNote here, I create a new section, and I call it Sci 112 Brain and Behaviour. Oh, there's already a section with that name, derp. We'll call it Sci 112 derp. Alright, we go over here and we can just add a bunch of pages. We're going to use them all anyway. Alright, we'll go to our first page. Now this is where it's handy to go to the unit outline. That wonderful document here that gives you everything you need to know, and half of the questions on the Ask the Teacher forum could be answered by reading the unit outline. Just saying. So we go in here, we have a look through, and let's say I want to know who all my contact people are, because it's entirely up to you what the hell you put in your OneNote. What I use is what I use. You might have something entirely different. So we might put contact details. We'll call that contact details. Now that feels like a footnote, so I tell you what, we'll drag it to the bottom of the page. We'll have our contact details down the bottom for if ever we have a question. We'll go back to our unit outline. Feels like course level outcomes is going to be pretty important. It's kind of annoying that's across a page break. I think what I did before is I would have just done this and grabbed part of it. And dropped it in there. So this is me, Windows key plus Shift plus S. So Windows key Shift S, and dragging across the screen to select the bit that I want. And there you go, so there's my learning outcomes. I definitely am going to want to know how I'll be assessed and when things are due. So I'm going to put that in here as well. What else might I want to know? I can grab my assessment details, but I'm going to give them their own pages later. So let's say that's what I want to know from our intended learning outcomes. Alright, so there you go. We'll now call that outcomes and assessments. And that's my first page, because that's the most important overarching topic. Here's the things I'm going to learn, and here's how I'm going to demonstrate that I've learned it. I'm then definitely going to have week 1. Now, if the topic for the week has a name, so let's say it's emotion, then we'll call it week 1 emotion. Now, to create subpages, so week 1 emotion, we will go back to the content. We'll go to a week that we know has some detail on it. Just put these side by side. So week 1, I want to change that title. Week one was all about vision, so we'll call that vision. And then we're going to go to the week 5 introduction to find out exactly what we're doing this week. And here's some topic overview, some learning outcomes and reading. That all feels pretty important. I'd rather have it in my OneNote so that I can see that whilst I'm studying than have to constantly flick back to the page and open up the intended learning outcome for week 5, for instance. And look, honestly, I've got a massive monitor, so that looks like it all fits, but some people won't have massive monitors, and what you're going to want to do is simply grab each one of these boxes, pop it onto the OneNote, and then you're going to want to resize it until it fits whatever your screen looks like, or whatever your eyes need, so you can easily manipulate the image once it's in there. Now, another cool thing, let's say there's a part on here I'm really keen to pay attention to. I can grab that draw icon again, and I can simply draw over it. It's just handy. I can put arrows in that color. I can, it's a full drawing kind of kit there, so that's really helpful. I hit escape to get out of the drawing tool. So that's my topic overview. Now, let's say there are 6 elements, 6 elements in there. What I can do is I can click on, I'll get rid of all these just to tidy it up. Click on add a page, drag it up with my left mouse, holding left mouse underneath the week 1. Then I'm going to drag it to the right until it just shifts along to the right. There is now an arrow showing on week 1 that will help collapse that nested menu. Now if I look at week 5 and I go, there's going to be, I've got my intro page which I've just done, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's already a 7th up there. I'm going to hold shift and left click to grab them all, drag them up until they're underneath week 1, and then drag them all across, and now they all align and all 7 pages are now nested. Then I can go into each one so this one we're going to say basic principles. Oops, slow the type. This one's going to be called attention, and I'll do this as soon as the module becomes available. The very first thing that I do before I even read a single word is I go into my OneNote and I name things. Helps if you can type really fast too, I've got to say. Right, so that's week 1, let's say. Well, I won't finish the rest, but you get the point. So then I can go into each one and I start my content on the basic principles. And I open it up and I read a bit and I go, oh, I really like that image. That image is super cool. So I'm going to grab that. And I'm just going to put it over on the side here because I just think it's a cool looking image and it just helps me remember, whatever the concept was. It's quite useful. And then I'll read and I'll watch the video. And as I watch the video, I again might go, I really like that slide. I'll just grab a picture of that, whack my picture of the slide up. Oh, I really like that point that it's made. So I'm just going to click anywhere on the page and go, so I'm just going to write some notes up. Isn't OneNote awesome? Yeah, boy. And then I might go, you know what, that's a really important point that I've just made there. I'm really happy with that and I want to remember that later because it was a really profound moment. And I do that. And then I go, oh, I really like it to be stretched out, so I grab the box and I stretch it out. And then I think it's better over here, so I'm just going to pick this up and put it there. This brain's a bit too big, and I start to move my information around until it's pleasant on a page, honestly, until it's visually pleasing, and I'm like, yeah, that looks really cool now. That's the point I'm trying to make. So I do that, and every week. That's pretty much it. Down the bottom, you'll see on my actual modules, I had quizzes. I didn't really use these, but maybe I will someday. I had my final exam and exam prep that isn't there, and some test exams. I whacked in a rubric for an assignment, and so on. And then some more exam prep down here, which should have been under my. So I'll quickly put that under here. Cool. So that is the OneNote environment. And again, it is a discipline. You need to do it at the start of each week. Spend your week before uni starts building the kind of shape for it, which is your topic up the top, your outcomes and assessments, get your weeks ready. And then as each week releases, make sure you map it out and then contain, so on genetics and heritability, you contain all your thoughts and your writing and your screenshots and what have you on that page from that content. And that way, when you get a question that's something about neuroplasticity, you can go to don't go to that page. Let's say you get a question around body sensors, you want to learn about mechanoreceptors, you come here because that's the page it comes under. That was the week that you did mechanoreceptors, nociceptors, etc. So again, it really, really is a discipline. That's the end of the OneNote. Watch that again or hit me up on Discord. I'm super stoked to run people through it to try and be useful to you. Oh, I forgot a thing entirely. I meant to add 2 points at the end that might also be helpful. First, start a fresh browser. So I don't use Chrome. I use it at work. I haven't used it at home. So I grabbed a whole new browser because I have a lot of bookmarks in my other browsers. So a whole new one. So it was fresher bookmarks. So now it is entirely my university browser. I only use it for my university browser. So I talked before about freeing up my brain to focus on what's important. That even extends to when I type in. I don't want the autofill to bring up stuff about computer games when I'm trying to bring up things about psychology. So starting a fresh browser gives you all your bookmarks across, wherever you have it. I have it across the top of the screen. For instance, my readings is quite useful. So I click on my readings. I've got it broken up into my Sci 111, Sci 112. So I click on Sci 112. And bam, 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 there are my readings for Sci 112. I have Sona, other interesting things that I found useful along the way, Google Scholar, eStudent, Milo, and then Milo set as the homepage. So I found that really useful. Another second useful tip is the Office 365. So we all get an Office subscription as part of our student fees. And I highly recommend going to this page, bookmarking it. Now on this page it gives you all the files that you have opened. So all the things that I've looked at, all the papers I read as part of my exams, all the Word documents I worked on, all those quizzes that I made, all appear on this page. So again, it's that notion of I don't need to go back to find where I put that thing that I'm looking for. I don't need to remember what folder it was and did I put it on C drive or D drive? Where is it? I come here, and if it was an Office product, it appears in my list. So again, just incredibly helpful, removes the effort of my brain having to remember things to get it done. Highly recommend, if you do this, to install Office. Web-based Office products are shit. Their email, everything, OneNote especially, work terribly in an online format. Only do it if you have to. Really try to grab the app. Noting also that you can get OneNote and other Microsoft products on iPad and phone with your university login. So you can have your OneNote at home, and then you can have your OneNote on the go, or your email or whatever it is. So you can install Office from there. And then the other thing was I also grabbed the Outlook client. I normally use just a generic mail app, so I can bring in all the things, all the programs that I use, all the emails I have. I have a few. Then I go to here, and it's got my university email. and it's also got my calendar. So in the first week as well, I'll go through the unit outline, and or as soon as I know when practicals are, and I'll start to build out exactly when my tutorials, my practicals, when assessments are due. I'll put reminders on the assessments, and yeah, so on. Again, all just part of being as organised as I can be, which is things I've had to learn over many, many years, is how to be organised, because it was never a thing that came naturally. So yeah, that was it. I hope you enjoyed my TED Talk. Ciao.